In this video, I'll show you a slow and easy 12-bar blues Delta style that starts with a very simple riff. Plus, at the end of the video, I'll show you a couple of quick tweaks that will make this piece sound really nice and bluesy. Now, these first two bars set the stage for all that's to come, and with a ton of space and just a few notes really straight out of the A minor pentatonic scale. We set this up with an A shuffle rhythm played with the thumb. And then very quickly, think A minor chord shape here. Very quickly, we're going to play these two notes, the C and then the A. C on the second string first fret, and then the A on the third string second fret. And then let it hang. Then we're going to wrap up at the end of this measure with a cool little tag. The E on the fourth string second fret, G, A. That's on the third string. So we've got this for the first measure. The next measure kind of answers that, and it's a little bit busier though. So we do this move twice. This part. Right? And then we drop down all the way to that E. Again, just thinking about this being from an A minor chord, you could really do it just by holding that chord. Holding that chord shape. But what we do here is go all the way down to E, and then we do this chromatic walk up on the third string. Open, first fret, second fret. So these two measures together sound like this. Now the next two bars, they lead us right into the chord change. We start by kind of restating the opening riff, and then we use chromatics to walk down into a D7. Let's look at that chromatic walk down. We're pumping the bass, just like we had before to start these measures, and we're going to walk down from the A, the high A on the 5th fret first string, to the 4th fret to the 3rd fret, which sets us up nicely for an A7, which at the end of the measure, we're going to hit the bass, brush through the chord, these three strings, that's 4, 3, and 2, before ending on the and of 4, so right at the very end of the measure, on that 3rd fret, first string there, the G note. And we're headed down here into D7. This is a great way. Look at how much chromatic movement we've got there. Right? It's a great way to lead us into that chord change. So once we get to the measures over the D7 chord, we're going to keep things nice and spacey. Lots of elbow room here, and there's another use of chromatics. Now, it definitely pays to plan your approach with that big chromatic walk down all the way from the A at the end of the previous measure that gets us into D7. What I'm doing is starting with my ring finger there. And then I'm going to bar and play the chord this way so that this ring finger is really in place to just move back down one more fret into the D7 here. It's a great way to just kind of plan your attack, and I don't have to move quite as much if I do that. You could certainly play your A7 this way and then abruptly change, but this to me lets me get this first string ringing as long as possible and connect these two notes. And that's where we start the measures over the D7 chord. We're going to play that F sharp, 2nd fret on the first string, the bass on the 4th string now, that's a D, and then we're going to pluck these two tones together, let it ring, and then do a little walk up here. Open, 3rd, and 4th on the 5th string. And in time, that sounds like this. And I'll play the next measure as well because it's basically the same. We just don't start with that F sharp at the top of the measure. We're going to put this together into a complete 12-bar arrangement in just a bit, but we've got to cover the E chord part first, and then there's a cool surprise the second time we encounter the D7 chord. So this first part is where we're thinking E7, right? This is the chord shape that I'm thinking that we're going to play out of. Now we hammer into the chord by going the open third string to the first. That's a very quick hammer on, really bluesy thing to do. And then down to the E on the fourth string, second fret, come back up to that G sharp that we just hammered into. So plant that chord pretty well here. And then pinky on the D, second string, let it hang. Then at the very last beat of the measure, we're going to start a walk up into D7. So open first string first, and then the second. Now go ahead and get into that D7 shape when you do this, and roll through those chord tones like that. And then what I did was got out of this position for the first and only time really in this part, in this arrangement, and I came all the way up here to a D7. I'm using that same A7 shape, and yeah, my fingers are kind of squeezed here, but again, it's really easy for me to just pick up this finger and move into that shape. And I'm really thinking about that more here, that I'm really traveling a pretty large distance on the fretboard. So just these little things are things that I do to make sure that I've got a really good, clean, solid chord change here. And what's happening is it's just a bar, strings 3 and 2 at the 7th fret, and then the 8th fret on the first. That's a D7, a little piece of a D7 chord. And then we just do a chromatic G to G sharp on the way to A, which is where we're going for the next chord change. Now, we could go in a few different directions with the last two bars for sure. You could insert a turnaround, you could play a lick, but we're keeping things cool and we're doing a callback to the opening riff, but we're going to add a nice little punch on the E7 chord right at the end of the final measure. That's a simple and effective way to signify the end of the progression and turn things back around to the beginning. Now, I'm going to play through the entire arrangement here, but listen out for that E7 at the very end, and then we'll have a look at a few ways to kind of turn up the mojo a notch or two on this thing. I think this thing is pretty cool on its own, just like we built it, and it's a great place to start building some Delta blues pieces, but we can really make it sing a little bit more. And the best way that I know of to do that is by introducing some blues bends. We've kept the same musical pitches to do these bends, but we got out of this C, right? You can do a bend there, but let's jump up and play the C on the 3rd string, 5th fret. And that gives us some fingers here behind the finger that we're fretting with to do a cool bend. And this blues bend is just a 1/4 step bend, right? We're not bending and targeting the 6th fret note. What we're doing is just slowly pulling that sharp. And at the top of the bend, this is kind of contributing to the vocal, the lyrical sound here. I mute it out right there. At the top of the bend, I return my finger to the string, and that stops it from ringing, stops the note. So it, to me, adds a lot of emotion and urgency on this. Then, of course, back down to our A there. But we could also bend on the G note. So we can do that at the 5th fret on the 4th string. So instead of this, where the G was open, we just played it here, which gives us a chance to bend it. And to me, this makes the part sound just thicker and a little more bluesy because we're putting that sort of cry vocal sound on it. And we can really dress up the D7 part quite a bit to make it growl, really add an impact, particularly in the lower register, the lower notes. Now, I like the bass being on the 4th string. That certainly works, but I really like the thump of a lower string, the 5th string or the 6th string in the bass. And what we're going to do here is use the F sharp. That's the 2nd fret on the 6th string. You can fret with your thumb, you can fret with another finger, perhaps your middle finger, but what that gives us is the F sharp, which is part of a D7, puts it in a lower position, and then we can thump along on that 6th string. So we'll convert those D7 parts over to this in the bass, and we'll also alter those chromatic movements just a little bit to make it fit. If you enjoyed this, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit subscribe so you don't miss a single lesson. If you want to keep learning, just click or tap right over here for another slow and easy Delta Blues lesson, and I'll see you over there. Until then, practice smart and play on.